Chilling tales for dark nights.
Want to make sure you never miss a Chilling Tales for Dark Nights video again? Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to turn on notifications.
Is this thing on? I see the light blinking, so I guess I'm good. Well, my name is Roy Harrison, and I was sheriff of Bush County, Texas for nearly 40 years. I suppose I've got a story to tell. A story about a city named Ashwood Heights, Texas, and why it doesn't exist anymore. Bush County is a quiet place. Not a whole lot of crime. Teenagers would race down the long stretches of highways. Sometimes one would flip a car and get themselves killed. And you'd have their parents placing a wreath on the road the next day. I saw too many of those wreaths in my time. Sitting out in the sun fading, being bleached by the light, and scoured by the wind. And of course, you had your domestic disturbances. Everywhere's got 'em, especially during the summer, when the heat settles over the county, and the wind feels like somebody blowing a hairdryer right in your face. The heat does things to a man. Turns 'em mean. Women too. If a cheating man was gonna meet his end by his wife's hand, well, you could bet money it'd be done during the summer. But when the weather turned cool and the wind brought the chill with it, things always seemed to calm down, you know. People were generally friendlier, more apt to have a church bake sale than to cause some kind of ruckus. Kids ran around outside. Footballs were thrown in damn near every yard. Fire pits shined in backyards as neighbors got together and tossed a few back on the weekends. I'm not a superstitious man, nor do I prescribe to astrology, seances, or any other kind of horse shit. I believe what I can see, what I can hold in these old hands. I'm not a liar either, except for the occasional white ones that we all tell from time to time. So when I tell you in 1986, on Halloween, I saw things I can't rightly explain, believe me, they happened. Dear Christ, they happened. I'd parked on the side of the highway that morning, probably around 11. I was sipping my coffee and enjoying the fall breeze coming through my open window. Something about the quiet highway and the breeze relaxed me right to the core, and I put my head back and closed my eyes for a bit. I dozed off, only to be scared awake by the radio squawking.
Sheriff!
Deputy Silva said over the air.
You there, boss?
I grabbed the receiver while my heart did jumping jacks. Yeah, I'm here. Christ, Silva, you scared the shit out of me.
Sorry, boss.
Silva said.
I need you over here on Quincy off Route 12. We got a 27 over here and it's bad, boss. Real bad.
I swallowed hard. Say again, Silva? Did you just say you found...
Yeah, boss.
Silva said.
A 27.
God damn it, I said. I'm on my way. I pulled the cruiser out onto the highway and headed west. 15 minutes later, I turned on to Quincy's, stopping just in front of Silva's patrol car. The deputy had parked his car long ways across the street to prevent anyone else from getting by. Quincy Avenue was empty, and I was damn sure there wasn't nobody coming through anytime soon, but it was standard procedure. The only building on the street was a derelict trailer that used to serve as an office for a used car company some 10 years ago or more. The rest was just overgrown lots with grass pushing up through the cracks in the concrete. I opened my door and got out, adjusted my belt as I walked over to where Silva stood.
Gracias a Dios,
Silva said when he saw me.
That was the longest 15 minutes of my life.
Okay, calm down. What we got here? Silva motioned for me to follow him, and I did. We walked around to the side of the trailer, and I could already see the blood running across the old concrete. Holy shit, I said, suddenly out of breath. It was a woman, and I do mean was. What was in front of me was a pile of busted flesh and ripped clothes, bones poking up in places like accusing fingers pointing at the sky. She wasn't just torn up, she had ruptured. God damn, Silva, I said, leaning over and peering down at her. How did you find her?
Just luck, boss,
Silva said.
I was driving around slow, had the windows down, nice breeze and all. And out of nowhere, I hear screaming. So I start searching around, you know. After a few minutes, I see the blood. Probably would have missed it, but the sun had caught it. I see that red glare and ran over, found her, and then got you on the radio.
I'm going to be real honest with you here, Silva, I said. I've seen some awful shit in my time. Teenage kids crushed in cars, people trapped in house fires. I once saw the aftermath of a bobcat attack back when I lived in Canyon Country. Shit, I was first on the scene when Harriet Winston chopped her husband up with a machete. But this, I ain't seen nothing like this.
I have,
Silva said,
but it ain't gonna make any sense.
I looked up at him, squinting at the noon sun shining under the brim of my hat. Tell me, son. Don't keep me in suspense here. Silva's expression was dark.
When I was younger, barely a teenager, I went to work with my father. He was still undocumented, so all his jobs were under the table. It was summertime, I was out of school, and me mama wanted me out of the house. Didn't want me being lazy all summer, but I really think she didn't want me hanging around the other neighborhood kids. It wasn't a very good neighborhood. I was born here, legal, and she wanted me to be something, you know?
I nodded. I was getting impatient, but I let Silva go on because it seemed important to him to get it out.
That year, my father was working construction in Dallas. I tagged along, and the foreman would pay me a little too for smaller jobs around the site. Taking bags of concrete in a wheelbarrow from place to place, picking up trash, stuff like that. One day, I hear people yelling, and I look up at them, and then look up at what they're pointing at.
Go on, I said. Silva nodded.
There was a man falling. He'd jumped from the building across the street, and it was a long way down. I watched him, and it felt like forever. Finally, he landed, and it looked like that.
He pointed to the body at our feet. I glanced up at the trailer, up at its roof. Well, that ain't no more than 9 or 10 feet, and not even a tree within 100 yards of here.
I know,
Silva said.
I told you it wasn't gonna make any sense.
I stood and brushed the dirt off one knee. Nothing here does. Go get His Highness the medical examiner on the horn. And if he gives you any lip, let me know. And get some of the other guys out here to get pictures. We're gonna be a while. Thank God it's cool out today. I walked back to my cruiser and sat down inside and reclined the seat back. The paperwork could wait. I just needed a few minutes to not think about the woman on the concrete. And truth be told, I needed my nap. Sometime later, I woke to Silva knocking on the roof of the cruiser.
Emmy is here, boss,
he said, pointing his thumb over his shoulder. All right, let me deal with the bastard, I said. I walked back over to the scene. Silva had put up some cones and yellow tape. Another deputy, Smith I think, was circling the body and snapping pictures. I took a tall step over the tape and approached the body. Don Lester was an unpleasant man, and we had a long history of butting heads that don't have nothing to do with this story. Let's just say that he didn't like me, and I couldn't stand his ass. Don?
Sheriff Harrison,
He said.
did you enjoy your nap? I know how much men your age need their rest.
I wanted to remind him that we were the same damn age, but I held my tongue. If Don got his feelings hurt, he'd button up and make me wait on his damn report to get any info. Yes, I said with a smile. I did. You have any ideas what went on here? Don wrinkled his nose, and his eyebrows did that thing I hate, where they'd bunch together and form one long line of wiry hair.
Ideas that could feasibly happen here? No. But if I were you, I would work under the assumption that it was a hit and run by a steamroller. Only, that isn't right either, because she's only flat on one side.
Honestly, any other day if Don had told me he didn't have a clue what was going on with the body, I'd feel giddy at the thought of busting his chops. But not that day. Okay, I said evenly. Is there anything you can tell me about her? He reached over with one gloved hand and picked up what remained of one of her arms.
Got a tattoo here. Could help in identifying her. Some kind of design with an arrow pointing.
Oh, shit.
Silva said. I hadn't even heard him walk up behind me.
That's Emily Palmer. She lives like 2 streets over from me in Ashwood Heights. Folks call her Emmy.
You know her well? I asked.
Yeah, boss,
He said.
and you know her too. She's Wayne Palmer's wife. Remember in the summer we had to ride over there for a domestic disturbance?
Wayne's a wife-beater?
Don asked. I shook my head. Nope. We had to stop her from hitting him. Don chuckled. What? I asked. You think domestic violence is funny?
No.
He said.
It's just...
Information be damned. I'd had enough of the prick already. I'm going to talk to Wayne, I said, turning to leave. Silva, stick around till this asshole is finished being useless.
Now wait a damn minute.
Don started, but I wasn't listening anymore. I got in my cruiser and headed for Ashwood Heights, preparing myself for the worst part of my job. But by the time I pulled up to the Palmer residence, it was getting close to 5 already. The surrounding neighborhood was all done up for Halloween. Scarecrows on porches, plastic skeletons hanging from nooses and swinging in the breeze. Cotton was spread thin across bushes, with fat rubber spiders lying in wait across the makeshift webbing. And the strangest house by a damn mile was the Palmers'. The house had 2 windows that faced the street, and each had been boarded up with plywood. They'd been painted with a coat of orange so dark it was nearly red. And on top of that, someone had painted long black masks. I hadn't seen anything like it in my life. The design was intricate, symbols and lines all flowing together like shit, I don't know. It's as hard to remember now as it was to look at then. All those lines, intersecting patterns, like that fancy writing on wedding invites. Calligraphy, that's it. Looked like calligraphy, done in a made-up language, painted on masks by a goddamn psycho. I got out of the cruiser and made my way up the sidewalk to the front porch. Dead leaves crackling beneath my feet. Nearly jumped out of my skin when the door swung open just as I was about to knock. Wayne Palmer stood there in the doorway, his face pale, one hand still on the doorknob.
Sheriff, thank God. Is this about Emmy? She left last night and I haven't seen her since. When I heard your car, I was hoping it was her.
Mr. Palmer.
Please, call me Wayne.
Wayne, could I come inside? Wayne's hopeful expression collapsed.
Oh no, please.
There wasn't going to be an easy way to say it. There never was. Wayne, I said softly, we believe we found Emmy on Quincy Avenue. She's gone. He shook his head sharply.
No, can't be.
Deputy Silver recognized a tattoo on her arm. Now you, of course, have the final say in identifying her. But yeah, Wayne, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty damn sure it's her.
You don't get it,
Wayne said, a silent tear rolling down his face, tracing the line of his cheek.
If Emmy's gone, then it's over. It's all over. She went too soon.
I nodded. She did, Wayne. She sure as hell did. Is there anything I can do? Maybe call somebody for you? Any relatives that can, help? Wayne shook his head again, his eyes vacant.
They're all dead now.
Okay then. Well, I'll call you as soon as we get her ready for you to identify. Once again, I'm sorry for your loss. Truly.
I can make this right, Sheriff,
he said.
If I hurry.
I'm sure I looked puzzled. What else would I have looked like? He wasn't making any sense, but grief does strange things, so I just nodded, tipped my hat, and walked back to the cruiser. My ass had barely hit the seat when Silva came over the radio.
Boss, you there?
I thumbed the button. Yeah, Silva?
The cleanup guys are here, and the ME got a better look at her other side.
I rubbed my eyes with one hand and pinched the bridge of my nose, readying myself for whatever craziness was about to land in my lap. All right, Silva, tell me.
Well, it's kind of hard to describe, because the damn thing's in pieces, but it looks like she was wearing some kind of mask.
My gaze immediately landed on the boarded windows on the Palmer's house. Let me take a wild stab in the dark on this one, I said. Orange, maybe red, with black lines and shit drawn all over it. It took a second for Silva to respond.
Yeah, that's it. How did you know that?
Lucky guess, I said, and sighed. I'll meet you back at the office. We can talk about it there.
Okay, sounds good, boss. Let's hope the rest of Halloween happens without any more crazy shit.
I started the cruiser's engine. Your lips to God's ears, Silva. Yeah, we hoped. But sometimes, hope don't amount to shit. By the time I pulled into our parking lot, the sun had dipped below the tree line, and the sky was purple in the twilight. I headed for my office, hoping to relax for a damn minute, and was surprised to find Silva already waiting on me, along with Don Lester. Ah, Don, I said, and sat down in my chair. It's so nice to see you again so soon.
Listen, Roy,
he said, his lips almost fighting his next words.
I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have laughed. It wasn't funny.
Holy shit, I said to Silva. I got a dead woman splattered in the middle of nowhere, and Don Lester just apologized to me. This day is chock full of surprises. I thought at least I'd get a smile from Silva, but his face was stern.
Give him a chance, okay, boss?
I turned in my chair and faced Don.
All right, shoot.
I don't know why it happened,
Don said.
And it's pretty obvious how she died. Don't need my report to tell you that.
Then why are you here, Don? He licked his lips and leaned forward in his chair.
Something is wrong here, Roy. And she had that mask thing on, which I can't even look at without my head aching. And that tattoo wasn't the only one, neither. Her whole torso was covered in them. Everywhere a shirt would cover, too, like she was hiding them.
Now, I know we're a bit more liberal about things nowadays, but a woman with a lot of tattoos trying to keep them a secret really wasn't a shock to me at the time. Well, I'm sure she had her reasons, I said. What else? Gotta be something else that's got you so spooked.
She had frostbite, Roy,
Dawn said.
I couldn't tell it until we turned her over to get a better look, but it's sure as shit there. Her face, her fingers, her toes, you name it.
I laughed, not because it was funny, just because what the hell else was I supposed to do with that information? Let me think this through. Emmy Palmer was freezing, still alive enough to get frostbite, then exploded like a dropped watermelon all over the parking lot. Don shook his head.
I don't know what to tell you, Roy. The frostbite is there. I don't have any idea why, but it's there.
Noted, I said. Silva, would you escort Don here out? I'm sure he's got paperwork to do or something. Don stood, his chest puffed out and his hands shaky.
I can see myself out. Think about what I said, Roy. Something funny is going on here.
And with that said, he left. What in the hell? I said. Frostbite? I ain't seen frostbite in maybe never. Silva leaned against the wall and looked up to the ceiling.
It's like we're getting further away from the truth, the more info we get.
Sometimes that's just the way it is, I said, nodding. Ain't nothing more to be done about it tonight. Why don't you go home? I know your girl's gonna be chomping at the bit to get out there and get some candy. What's her get-up this year?
Red Riding Hood,
Silva said with a smile.
Going with the classic this year. I was going to walk around with her with the wolf mask on, but I really don't feel like wearing a mask after today.
I laughed. Ain't that the damn truth? Go home, Silva. I'll start the paperwork.
Thanks, boss,
he said.
I'll see you in the morning.
Have a good one, I said. He stopped at the door.
Oh, and happy Halloween.
Get the hell out of here, Silva, I said. He laughed and left. I pulled a new folder from my desk, grabbed the pen, and wrote Emily Palmer across the top. I was about finished with the initial report when the phone rang. I picked it up. Bush County Sheriff, I said, looking at my watch. It was after 9 already.
Sheriff Harrison, it's Sheila Baker in Ashwood Heights. Have you got a moment?
Yes, Mrs. Baker. Is everything okay?
Well, I ain't sure. My son, Bradley, went out around 6 with his friends for some trick-or-treating. Now the other boys have all come home, but ain't nobody seen Bradley. They swear they was with them the whole time, but he's just gone.
I grabbed my notepad from my pocket. I'm sure he's fine, but I'll come drive around and see if I can't spot him, okay? What was he wearing tonight?
He's dressed like a vampire. He's got a white button-up shirt, black cape. His face is painted white. Oh, and he's wearing jeans, 'cause I wouldn't let him run around with his good church pants on.
Probably a good idea, I said. All right, Mrs. Baker. I'll be around there shortly to take a look. I stood and grabbed my jacket off the hook. I didn't even get both my arms in the sleeves before the phone rang again. I picked up the receiver and held it between my head and shoulder. Bush County Sheriff.
Oh, hey, Sheriff. It's Pete Stanfield.
Now I knew Pete. Him and his wife ran a diner that was a favorite haunt of mine. Hey, Pete, what can I do for you?
Now, I might be blowing this out of proportion, but Lily was supposed to be home an hour ago, and we ain't seen hide nor hair of her.
Huh, I said, my wheels turning in a direction I didn't want to go. I'm gonna head that way, Pete. Tell me what she was wearing.
It's that cartoon warrior woman, Shara. She-Ra. It's like a white dress and a red cape outfit with a blonde wig. Got on a gold crown, too.
I wrote it all down. Okay, Pete. I'll get back to you as soon as I know something.
Thanks, Roy. We really appreciate it.
I pressed the button to get a new line and dialed Silva's number. His wife, Maria, picked up.
Hola, Roy. If you're looking for Julio, he's still out getting candy with Jesse.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Will you tell him to get me on the radio when you see him?
Sure.
She said.
Everything good?
No, I thought. Everything is not good. Yeah, just had to ask him something. I gotta get on the road. Thanks, Maria.
De nada.
She said.
Bye, Roy.
I didn't run out of my office, but I damn sure was doing more than walking. I jumped in the cruiser and pulled out onto the highway. I flipped the flashers on, staining the night in pulses of blue, but I left the siren off. Didn't want to panic nobody, or maybe I didn't want to panic myself. All these years later, and I still ain't sure which. I made it to Ashwood Heights in record time, but slowed down in the city proper, wary of kids still running around the streets. I cruised at a crawl, scanning from side to side, looking for any kids that matched the descriptions their parents had given me. I saw plenty of ghosts, a few witches, some cartoon characters whose names I couldn't tell you then or now, but no She-Ra, and no vampires wearing blue jeans. About 10 minutes into my search, I found Silva, still in uniform, and standing stock still on the sidewalk. Alone. I stopped the cruiser next to him and got out. Silva, I said, what are you doing? He looked at me like he'd just woke up.
Boss? I don't know.
Where's Jesse? I asked as I walked over to him. He looked down, confused.
She was right here.
I put a hand on his shoulder. Julio, wake up, son. I got calls about 2 missing kids, and now you're telling me you don't know where Jesse is.
We were walking, he said, and we came up to this house and knocked, but I don't know what happened next.
I looked up at the house, somehow surprised and unsurprised in equal measure. The black masks painted on the boarded-over windows seemed to look right at me. Some people were stepping down from the porch, all adults, and all confused. Stay right here, Silva, I said, and approached the group. Hey, folks, I said. I'm Sheriff Harrison. Have any of you seen...
Where's James? James!
The man closest to me suddenly cried out, and then fell silent again, blinking and continuing to trudge to the sidewalk. I turned and yelled for Silva. Silva, come with me. He continued to stand, swaying with the breeze. Deputy Silva, that's an order. He shook his head.
Right, boss. I'm with you.
We stepped on Palmer's unlit porch, and I thumbed the leather strap from the top of my revolver. Silva looked at me, alarmed, but he followed suit. I knocked twice. Wayne, it's Sheriff Harrison. Mind coming to the door? I just have a few questions that need answering. The knob turned and the door creaked open. Wayne stood there, backlit by 6 burning candles on a table. Sweat ran from his head, down his neck, and over his bare chest. Tattoos covered most of his torso, running from his clavicles down to his navel.
Sheriff,
he said weakly.
I was hoping you'd come by later, but that's okay. Everything is okay now.
Wayne, I said, then hesitated, looking over the whorls and lines drawn into his skin. We're looking for some missing children. Have you seen any unaccompanied kids around? Wayne nodded.
Yes, I took 6 in all.
I don't know if I can describe what I felt then. Adrenaline flooded my body, and my stomach seemed to fall right through the ground. I drew my revolver. I'm gonna ask you to step back and turn around now, Wayne, I said, trying to sound calm. Let's go ahead and get your hands behind your back. He did as he was told, turning and placing his hands at the small of his back. Silva, cuff him, I said, but Silva didn't move.
Wait, I remember. You bastard!
He cried. He blew past me, tackled Wayne Palmer to the floor. All of Wayne's breath came out in a rush of air as he hit the hardwood.
This pendejo took Jesse,
Silva said, pinning Wayne's arms down.
He fucking drugged me or something. Shit, I don't know, but he took her, boss.
I knelt beside Wayne. His head was against the hardwood, his cheek pressed flat, blood running from both nostrils. Where are the kids, Wayne? I said. Don't make this shitty situation any worse. Just tell us where they are.
They've ascended,
Wayne said. Silva pressed his knee into Wayne's back.
What the hell does that mean? I told you earlier, Sheriff,
Wayne grunted.
Amy went too soon. It had to be tonight. I tried to tell her, but she wouldn't listen.
What had to be tonight? I said. Wayne looked at me like I was the dumbest man on planet Earth.
Do you even know what Halloween is? It's a ritual that all of us take part in, even if most of us don't know it.
I'm gonna ask you again, I said slowly. Where are the kids?
Every year, millions of people camouflage their children, hide their faces from the vengeful dead that won't rest,
Wayne said.
And they go door to door, taking offerings to appease them. It's all there if you'd only pay attention. But that isn't the end of it. 6 children, chosen at random, are masked and sent in front of the gates to make offerings. Memories, emotions, feelings, everything the jealous dead have forgotten. You got 3 seconds to stop the bullshit and start making sense,
Silva said. Wayne sighed.
When the children come back, they'll be the only ones to remember, but not until they're adults. They'll grow up, move away, and become the ritualists themselves in whatever city or town they settle in. Emmy thought she could perform the ritual herself. Give up a lifetime of offerings before the thinning between the worlds began. She didn't want more kids to end up like us, performing the ritual year after year. Centuries of successful rituals should have shown her she was wrong. That's what we were arguing about over the summer when y'all showed up. I tried to convince her, and she went crazy. It doesn't matter now. She's gone. So I finished the work without her.
Silva pulled his revolver and shoved the barrel into the bunched skin at the back of Wayne's neck.
Silva,
I said,
put it away. We ain't gonna learn anything if he's dead. I'll stay with him. You search the house.
They ain't here,
Wayne said.
I already told you that.
Then where, Wayne?
I yelled.
Enough of this crap. Tell us where they are.
Just be patient,
Wayne said.
All you have to do is wait. The ritual will end, and the children will come back safe and sound. Just wait until midnight, and this will all be over until next year.
Go ahead and search the house, I told Silva.
Don't move, asshole,
Silva said, and snapped the cuffs over each of Wayne's wrists. He got up and started for the front hall, his hip bumping the small table. The candles wobbled. Their flames wavered, but soon stilled.
Careful!
Wayne screamed.
Don't touch them!
Silva looked down at him.
What the hell are you talking about? The candles!
Wayne said, panic creeping into his voice.
They're a sympathetic link to them. It keeps them warm and safe from...
I didn't have time to say anything. Don't really know what I would have said anyway. What did I care about the candles? All we were focusing on was finding the kids. Silva leaned over, looked Wayne in the eye, and blew out one of the candles.
No!
Wayne screamed.
Stop! If the ritual fails, the city is gone. Everyone will forget it ever existed. The dead will consume the memories for just a taste of life again. It will all crumble. Where's my daughter?
Silva said.
Tell me, or I'll blow them all out like it's my goddamn birthday. Please.
Wayne pleaded.
She will be back, I swear. Just be patient.
Silva went down the row of candles, blowing them out one by one. Wayne's lip trembled, and he began to sob. Jesus, Silva, I scowled. That didn't help anything. You think he'll talk now? Wayne said something between sobs. What? I said. I don't understand you. Wayne lifted his tear-streaked face.
They are all dead. And you won't even have a memory of them to mourn.
Outside, someone screamed. I jumped to my feet and headed for the door, Silva following on my heels. People had come out of their homes and were looking around to each other. Costumed kids and their parents stood still, each as confused as the other. Somebody, no idea who, yelled,
Look! Up there!
And we did. Dark shapes were speeding towards us from the sky, screaming and screeching. For less than a second, I believed Wayne Palmer. I was convinced that ghosts or demons or some otherworldly shit had broken through, and they were coming for us. But then I remembered Amy Palmer, and realization struck me like lightning. Go back inside, Silva, I said.
What? Why?
He said.
What's happening?
Julio, please go, I cried. Get away from here. But it was too late. There were no demons descending from the clouds, just 6 costumed children, screaming in terror as they fell from God knows how high up in the sky. High enough to get frostbite, I knew that. High enough to where the air was thin and cut like a blade of ice. I'm not going to describe what happened. If you've listened this far, then you can imagine. The fate of Emmy Palmer and the fates of those children were one and the same, right down to the masks on their faces. The world erupted in screams. Parents screamed and grabbed their children tightly. Children screamed at a mixture of their parents' terror and at the horror that was spread out in the street before their eyes, still spreading. Blood. Blood everywhere. I couldn't move, not an inch. I didn't move when Silva walked over to the crushed heap of bodies. I didn't move when he lifted the red hooded cloak to see what was beneath. And I didn't move when he walked past me, up the porch steps and back into the house, and shot Wayne Palmer 6 times. I tilted my head up to the sky, and up above, way up above, was a face. A face of clouds and moonlight, of stars and the thin spaces between stars. where reality was pulled taut by the hands of the idiot dead who will not rest. I stared at it, and it stared at me. I finally looked away, unable to stand its gaze any longer. Things get fuzzy from there. I don't remember much of the rest of that night. Truth be told, I didn't remember any of it until this morning when I woke up shivering and tangled in my bed sheets. I remember driving home and feeling like there was a weight, some oppressive force bearing down on me. I remember forgetting. The next day, Silva showed up to work like nothing had happened. At some point, I asked how much candy Jesse ended up with. "Who?" Silva asked, one eyebrow raised in confusion. I took another sip of my coffee. I started but couldn't finish. Because I didn't know. Not anymore. Over the next few months or so, people began to move away from Ashwood Heights for all sorts of reasons. Sick relatives, better school districts, new jobs. But I know now those weren't the real reasons. The city was just over and done, like it was slowly being erased. I stayed on as sheriff, and even though I didn't live in Ashwood Heights, I did move farther away from it. Couldn't have said why, just that I didn't want to be near it. Even the buildings had begun to disappear, one by one. And now that I think on it, I don't believe Wayne and Emily were alone in the world. I think there's people everywhere that prepare for when things are at their thinnest, when the door is open just a crack. And when it's time, they perform the ritual, and everything goes right back to normal. And if everything goes sideways, if some anxious father blows out the wrong candles, then it's over. The memories fade and the place withers and dies. I know it's true. Because why, after all these years, am I remembering this shit now? I'll tell you why. Because it's Halloween today, and somebody fucked up. Whoever's on ritual duty here is going to fail tonight. I can feel it somehow. And come tomorrow, this city, my city, will start to wither, then blow away like dust. How many cities have been lost over the years? How many civilizations? Christ, why am I just realizing this now? 'Cause I needed to tell the story first? Did I have to remind myself? I don't know. But I've got about 5 hours to figure out who's in charge of this city's ritual, if they're still alive. I need to know what I can do to help. Check the map tomorrow, and if there's an empty spot where Green Creek, Texas used to be, well, you'll know why. But you won't, will you? No one will. We'll just become part of the vast emptiness far above our heads, forgotten and lost between the stars.
Chilling tales for dark nights.